It's not supposed to be a cult documentary, but the documentary about LuLaRoe was actually super similar in that if you aren't making money with this MLM, it's not our fault, it's your fault. You're not working hard enough. And it was definitely like the same message. I teach human physiology. Hi, Katie. So I left my beliefs. Well, I stopped believing, I guess maybe is a better way to put that. It's kind of a long process, but I first deconstructed my belief in hell. That was kind of where the process started for me. And then after that, I really deconstructed the idea of the inerrancy of the Bible. And I eventually got to a place where I just stopped believing in God altogether. Oh, yeah, that one. There's a documentary, Keep Sweet, Pray and Obey. Oh my God, that is such a powerful and terrifying documentary. And it is, so that documentary, if you all haven't seen it, it's about Warren Jeffs and the FLDS group. And I do think, again, while the vast majority of religion is not like that, it is something worth noting of when you are using fear to control your religion, and the way Warren Jeffs controlled people was that if they didn't do the right things, they weren't going to go to heaven. And so people were willing to endure all kinds of terrible treatment because all they were focused on was their afterlife and their eternal salvation. And so I do think that was a really powerful look into how easily that concept can be abused. Thanks. I'm glad you have the same coffee cup. Glad you're here. When I was trying to find some information about what is a cult and how do you define something as a cult, because I think there's a lot of religions that are not cults, but there definitely are some. I don't know if you all are familiar with the BITE model, BITE, and that is by Stephen Hassan. And thank you. I actually am a singer. So let me know if that's something you all are familiar with. And I think that that's a cool way to discern, at least if you're like under authoritarian control. I call myself an agnostic atheist. So I don't believe in God, but at the same time, I can't say that I'm 100% sure that there's nothing else out there. Christine says, respectfully, do you believe any of the Bible? It's an interesting question. I mean, I guess my view of the Bible is that it is, an ancient document written by people and their experience with their God. And so I have no idea if some of those events happened, and I don't really have a good way to determine which events happened and which didn't. So it's possible that some of the things happened, but I'm not sure. Hey, Arch. Arch was in a cult, and I just from the little bit that I know about your story, it was really brave of you to start talking about your experiences, because I think, something that people maybe don't consider or know about is how much it costs you to leave if you are part of a cult. I talk about deconstruction and leaving my religion, but it's, those costs that I paid are magnified if you're in a really high control religion or a cult. Oh yeah, Jess says she used to be a Pentecostal pastor's kid. Whew. Let's see. Do you know anything about the Way International Church? I live by. Oh no, I don't, Michaela. I would have to look that up. Samantha says, what's the difference between a religion and a cult? It's actually a really important question, and I don't know that it has a clear cut, like black and white, this is a religion versus this is a cult. But one of the things I think that can help discern, are you in a cult, is to look at the level of control that the religion or the organization has over you. And I wrote this stuff down because I was afraid I wasn't going to remember it. But there are these 4 categories of control that if you're trying to figure out, am I in a cult? Looking at these 4 categories of control. So one's behavior, and that means your organization dictates who you can see, what you can do, who you can be in a relationship with, what you can wear. Then there's information. And so that is like, are you in a situation where your organization is filtering the information you can have? So can you only, receive information that's approved from the organization? There's thought control, and that's like, there are good thoughts and bad thoughts, and you have to eliminate the bad thoughts and really focusing on getting you to think the same way as your organization. And then emotional control. And this is actually where I do think that that parallel that I was talking about between the documentary I just watched and what Christians tell me about my experience. With this emotional control, there's a lot of guilt, a lot of shame. And when you have problems with the organization, they're always your fault and they're never the organization's fault. So that, what I just outlined, those 4 categories, behavior, information, thought control, and emotional control, that is a model of authoritarian control by Stephen Hassan. And so I think that's a good way to at least assess where you're at with whatever organization you're in to make sure that you're not in a cult. Oh, yeah, you were part of Amway. Totally. Yep, I'm with you, Samantha. Christine says, truthfully, I've been questioning for a while. Too afraid to question, though. My whole life has been it. Yeah. I definitely appreciate how much it costs to leave a religion or leave a cult or leave anything that is, encompassing so much of your life. So I'm sorry you're in such a tough space. Yeah, Pi says, yes, control was everything, even down to how you spent your time. Yeah, and I also think that that's so variable depending on literally what church you're going to and who's leading that church and what denomination you're in and where you are even in the world, that the amount of control that your religion has over you, I think, is hugely varied. Oh, wow. I've never heard of that. Michaela, will you send me a message with that name? Because I lose the comments when I end the live. But I'm really interested in that. That's wild. Nikki says, have you read the Bible? You don't believe in God or ever believe? So yes, I have read the Bible. I've read the entire Bible all the way through multiple times. I was really devoted to my faith and God for a really long time. I started questioning my faith in my mid-20s, and it took me it was a long process, but I eventually got to a place where I just no longer believed in God. Yeah, Samantha says, I went to many Baptist and Pentecostal churches that were cults. Yeah, I think both of those denominations can be very, very high control. I did not grow up Baptist. I grew up Presbyterian, but my dad and his dad were Baptists. And so I know my dad and his dad grew up with, the high control, no drinking, no dancing, no playing cards, like very rigid type of religion.